Good morning and welcome to Friday the 3rd of March.
Yes.
April. Sorry,
April.
I've even forgotten what month it is. I hope you're...
Cool, my dude. I forget what day it is half the time.
It is my dude. You are using dude a lot more since you mentioned the use of the word dude.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's appropriate.
Should we do the normal thing and check whether our audio's working?
Yes,
That'd be amazing. Thanks to Russell and Desmond for tuning in. We should be starting very soon. We're going to check the audio in a minute. Thanks for Andy for tuning in, and we've got audio, so we're all good to go.
I started the watch party on the wrong episode.
I am joined by a girl who I haven't got an intro for this morning. It's Charlotte Dames.
Wow, you're as unprepared as me.
Have you got an intro?
I'm joined by a man who... Sorry, this is really distracting, and I had one in my head.
Have you missed the intro now?
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh,
it's gone.
No. I'm joined by a girl who loves Instagram so much. She follows loads of Insta famous people. It's Charlotte Dames.
Do I?
Good? No, I don't know if you do, to be honest. However, we are joined by a special guest today, a lady who puts the positive in positive psychology. It's Ruth. Hi Ruth, how are you?
Hi, good morning. Lovely to be with you today.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's really good to have you. But before we, Ruth, I know you're going to share with us quite a lot about how people can mentally endure and stay resilient in the current times. But before we do that, should we do our parish notices? Because I want to say a few thanks. Because interestingly, we started this about a week and a half ago. We've never done a Facebook Live on the Kindness Project before. We've always been a audio-based affair. Is the word affair?
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for 2 years, but we thought we'd trial Facebook Live.
This whole quarantine thing.
Yeah.
Did you remember to put Audacity on?
I haven't put Audacity on, but Russell will now have to record it, so thank you for that. But we have had, over the last few days, about 3,000 views on the videos. So thank you for everybody who's tuning in to watch it. Thank you to everybody who gets involved every single day we run it, because we have loads of comments and questions and people are really liking to get involved. Happy Friday, Nick. Morning. Thanks for your live comment. And hello to Lucy and Desmond and Russ and Kevin and Tina, who are all getting involved. So thanks for tuning in and watching. We're going to keep on going.
Yep.
Not every day, but probably 4 or 5 days a week doing this, because it's quite a good laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we don't do Thursdays because that's when you've got the Savello live, and we don't do Saturdays, so we're taking really odd days off. So we're not doing it tomorrow, but we are doing it Sunday.
Well, you know what's weird? I'm doing work over Easter because it is sort of merged into one.
There's no break.
And I don't know if Ruth would suggest that's a good idea. Ruth, what do you think? Like, in this period where there seems to be less structure, should you still take like Easter off? What do you think?
I would say it's really up to you. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that if you're in quite an unstructured environment, so I'm doing a lot of work at the moment with people who are struggling to adjust to working from home, for example.
Yeah.
So it's quite important, if you're one of those people that struggles in an unstructured environment, to give yourself some structure, maybe timetable your day.
Yeah.
Think about it in advance and get up in the morning, get dressed, and take weekends off so that you've got some time that's different from working time. Otherwise, especially as we don't know when this is going to end, the days can blur one into the other.
Yeah, you need to avoid that,
if
don't you?
Easter's always been important for your family, I mean, a lot of people are doing things online that they would normally be doing face-to-face in person. So you might want to actually cook an Easter lunch and have it with your family, with your laptops in front of you on the table, wherever you are, so that you can still share that time if it's important to you. And those people who celebrate Easter or other religious festivals take the time to do that online. if you're not worried by it, if it works for you, we've all got to do the thing that works for us. So if you want to take Easter as a normal sort of working time and it works for you and your family, I think that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Work out the way that works best for ourselves.
Yeah, and just a quick morning to Sarah, and I wanted to share something that Sarah shared with me. Our guest earlier in the week was the legend in Orange, Mr. Andy Furneaux, the only man I know that can pull off Orange that well. And he was talking about the amazing work that St Francis Hospice are doing, but how, particularly at the moment, it's quite a challenging time for them because all their fundraising events are off. And thank you to our community who just jumped on that and said, "Well, look, we're going to help you out. We're going to start making monthly donations." And Dawn and a couple of other people made monthly donations. And Sarah, and we'll put a link to this in the show notes, is starting her work from home business again, and making a donation for every order she has. So amazing work. Thank you, Sarah, for doing that. I know the guys at the hospice will appreciate it. And one of the interesting things about this strange situation we find ourselves in, Ruth, is the amount of kindness people are showing to each other. It's like this is, and I know it's all about perspective, but a lot of it seems to have engendered a sort of all in this together sort of attitude. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's so important. What you just said reminded me of a story. I don't know if you remember the last time that we spoke, I talked about virtues in action and using your strengths and how that can improve well-being. And there's a story about Nemiak, who's one of the chief researchers with Martin Seligman and Pedersen on that project. As a young boy, his mum used to say to him if he was acting up a bit, she said, "Oh, you're really grumpy today. Go and do something kind for somebody." And even though it might seem that people hunker down, and as I said, people have got very different ways of dealing with things, doing something for somebody else actually helps you too, and improves your own well-being, improves other people's well-being. I think one of the things that's keeping everybody going is this kind of community sense that we're in this together, we can help each other. And whether that means clapping the NHS at 8 o'clock, or whether it's part of this huge wave of volunteerism that's happening, either in a very local way for our neighbours, just helping out people who can't get out of the house and doing shopping, that kind of thing, or whether it's volunteering for the NHS. I think this, or fundraising, as you've just explained with your listeners, mucking in and thinking, all right, well, what can I do? And that also boosts our sense of autonomy. So at the moment we're in a situation where perhaps we're feeling really quite out of control in terms of the broader picture. So we can't control this coronavirus. There are some things that we can do to influence its spread by remaining socially isolated and washing our hands and all the other things that we're being advised to do. But what we can do is positively impact on the lives of those around us through fundraising, through volunteering, through just helping one another out. And I think that's really important for our well-being.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges that I face is I've got no practical skill at all. So this is my positive contribution and trying to help people by sharing their stories, sharing tips that might be able to help, and thinking about life through a potentially a bit more of a positive framework is quite useful. Before because we haven't even got on to you telling us a little bit about you. But what I want to do before we do that, Ruth, I want to share today's, not this week's, because we're not doing it week anymore, are we? Today's question of the podcast. And in your introduction, Ruth, I want you to include your answer to this particular question. What's your favourite game show / quiz show? Yes. Now I've got a favourite at the moment. It's House of Games, Richard Osman's House of Games. which has turned into a bit of a family affair. We all get involved. But I quite like a bit of retro game shows. So Bullseye is amazing, and the best bit about Bullseye is when they won the speedboat and they lived somewhere in the Midlands, nowhere near a beach. And I always wondered what they did with that speedboat.
You know what I love? When it's on The Price is Right, but the person looks like they couldn't even get on the motorbike and they won. And it was like,
Oh, why couldn't they get on the motorbike?
it's like, I don't know, they just looked like they couldn't get on the motorbike.
Right.
And they looked a bit like, what am I going to do with that motorbike?
Yeah, exactly. But would you say no to motorbike?
No.
You can always say it, can't you?
I've learned to ride a motorbike.
Ruth, what's your favourite quiz show?
You know, I'm not massively a quiz show person, but I do get myself sneakily addicted to Times Pointless.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure why. I quite like the interaction. I like Richard Osman as well. The way that he speaks, the huge amounts of his knowledge. But I'm much more addicted to comedy quiz shows like QI. That's something I really enjoy more than sort of the straight quiz show. So I just like those little nuggets of information and the humour that's shown and coming away thinking, those random pieces of information that stay with you. I really do enjoy that.
QI is absolutely amazing for that. Nick, what is BFH? I don't know what BFH is, so thanks for your live comment. But if you can share with us what BFH is, that'd be amazing. Morning, Trev.
Morning, dude.
Morning, dude. I have heard dude a lot more, just from you. I mean, the problem is with this social isolation is I'm mostly talking to you, aren't I? So I am hearing the word dude a lot more. Have you, Ruth, ever used the word dude in a normal conversation?
Can't say I.
Apparently,
not one of my words.
Apparently, the kids are loving it at the minute. The word dude. I didn't realise. Right. Apparently, BFH stands for bus fare home, which is what Jim Bowen used to say on Bullseye. He did. So it's all good. Ruth, can you share with our audience a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I run a company called Curious Human, and our mission is to improve resilience and well-being and positive mental health in people undergoing cultural transition. So I work with international teachers, international students, companies who have employees who come from overseas, predominantly, but also with people who work in other cases of transition. So I do a bit of work with the University of East London with their foundation program. I run a coaching program for students who come from non-traditional academic backgrounds, quite a lot of them first generation into higher education, and coping with the kind of mental dislocation that can happen when you're out of your comfort zone. So my speciality is culture shock. That's really appropriate at the moment because we're all in a kind of culture shock.
Yeah.
The what we call our assumptive world, the things that we
take for granted
at the moment, all seem to be up in the air. So right from how predictable the world is, how capable we are in the world, who we are and how we deal with things. So and how just the world is. So essentially, a lot of people might, for example, have an underlying assumptive belief that people are essentially good, and that's confirmed perhaps by their recognition of the volunteering that's going on at the moment. But also that belief might be disrupted by other, like hoarding of basic supplies and so we're seeing a lot of trauma type reactions. I don't know if you're familiar with the Kubler-Ross curve. So that it's usually used for bereavement and the stages that people go through from shock, denial, anger, depression, and then testing new ideas and acceptance and starting to cope with a new reality. And although it's normally presented in a curve, people move backwards and forwards between those different models. So for me, this whole coronavirus situation is a culture shock for all of us, and we might find ourselves gripped by those kinds of emotions, recognizing, getting some perspective on it. So what I do essentially is help people understand when they're in the grip of these different kinds of emotions, that they're normal, that they're human. People tend to think positive psychology is Pollyanna psychology, just looking at the bright side of things. But second wave positive psychology is about accepting and understanding all of our emotions and being able to put them into perspective. So if you're feeling sad about the things you lost, I had a huge wave of sadness yesterday. I'd gone in to get some shopping and run out of milk, and suddenly the whole shopping experience is so different. We've got these stickers on the floor, there are perspex sheets, you're having to socially distance, keep away from other people. Suddenly all of your social manners are different. Before, it was polite and respectful to greet people and speak to them. Now, respecting others is about moving away from them and giving them space.
Yeah, and that's difficult.
And there was this background announcement going on, talking about being respectful in terms of how much you were taking of different things and keeping social distancing. It felt like being in a movie. And suddenly I was overwhelmed with this grief for just the normal shopping experience, the normal world, the things that we could do without thinking about it. Now suddenly everything we do, we're starting to think about, we're starting to question. And I think that, the world can be so much better in some ways as a result of that. You've got teachers thinking about online education, and this is where the testing part comes in. What can you actually do in this situation that feels so out of control? And of course, then I would use positive psychology, which is evidence-based interventions that you can use that will help you to improve your well-being at a time when you're really unsettled.
So what we're going to do, Ruth, is share some practical tips that people can use, because I think that's the reason we wanted you on, because I know that a lot of your work is around helping people cope with change, and I don't think we've been in a position as a society where this change has come on so fast and in such an unexpected way. So let's talk a little bit about that as we do. But what I wanted to do before we do that, and we'll ask you a few questions about some practical tips you can share. Every week on the show, every day on the show, there's a fella that I want to give a shout out to. He delivers every single day. Mr. David Forsdyke gives us his reasons to be grateful /
Silver linings.
And today's Silver Linings from Dave has a theatrical theme.
Oh, okay. The National Theatre are putting full-length plays on YouTube every day, Thursday, as part of a theatre at home programme. Why not try something different from your favourite TV shows and go to the theatre at home instead? Last night's show, One Man, Two Governors, starring James Corden, can be found
on YouTube. Yeah, so YouTube, the National Theatre channel on YouTube is releasing a lot of their shows, so that's good. Andrew Lloyd Webber announced yesterday that he will be streaming one of his musicals each week via his The Shows Must Go on YouTube channel. The first one is Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, starring Donny Osmond. Now, you love a good musical, don't you? And what musical would you want to be?
What ones haven't I seen that would be good to see? Heathers. Wicked would be good. Dear Evan Hansen.
Have you seen Wicked?
No.
Anything but
Wicked's amazing.
Is it good?
I loved it.
Yeah. What's your favourite musical, Ruth?
Well, I like all musicals, really. I'm a complete musical fan. I right from the sort of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, I loved Wicked, I loved Kinky Boots. But I suppose if I had to have my favourite, it would be Les Miserables, which is probably a bit ironic for a positive psychologist.
You know
But
what?
I do like a good cry at times as well. And Les Mis, the music's so amazing. That would
Have
be
you
my
seen that
favourite.
version of One Day More that's going around with the family? It's so funny.
Really fab, that. Loved it.
Yeah, I'm not a Les Mis fan.
You're more of a Hamilton person,
I
aren't you?
love Hamilton's my favourite. Hamilton, and what was the one we saw earlier in the year?
Everybody's talking about Jamie.
You know that period of time when we could actually go out? Do you
Yeah,
remember, do you
we
remember
went and
that?
watched Everybody's Talking About Jamie.
Yeah, that was good. That was really, really good. So,
So
Angela,
those two are on my list of when everything is back. Those I'd love to see both of them.
yeah, they are. Hamilton in particular is really,
I had
good.
to stop him from singing along at certain points.
Well, you know what? The thing is, I like to do my homework. So if you go into a musical, you've got to sort of have a look on Spotify and learn some of the songs, so at least you know what's going on. And Hamilton, I just got really into that before we see it. Also, apparently Dave mentions that there's a bunch of live gigs going up on YouTube as well, including one of Dave's favourites, Iron Maiden. Not my bag, but thank you, Dave, for sharing those silver linings yet again. Ruth, talk to us about what we can do practically if we are finding ourselves currently struggling to cope. And again, I think we are in a situation in 2020 where we can be a bit more open about the fact that sometimes, every now and again, we struggle, which is a good thing. What can we do to frame this situation in the most constructive light?
Okay, so there are two things that I'd share with you. One of them is to do with our mindset. So thinking about how we can reframe our emotional reactions and get a little bit of distance on them. So there's a little tool that you can use. Last time I talked to you about the Calm tool by Greg Enriques. He has a great blog on Psychology Today, and he talks about when you have an emotional hijacking, instead of just going with it, sort of notice your emotions and be curious about why you're experiencing them. So curious and accepting, instead of having this interior mental stream of consciousness, your metacognitive observer going, I hate coronavirus situation is awful, I hate it, every day is terrible, I don't know what's going to happen, and you've got this whole sort of narrative stream just to think, okay, this is happening.
When you're in the thick of that, it's sometimes difficult for people, me included, to get out of that mindset. And how do you snap yourself out of that? What techniques can you potentially use to do that, or is it just a matter of being conscious of it and trying to practice it as often as possible?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I don't think we should deny those emotions. It isn't about saying, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this, because our emotions are part of how we as human beings process things.
Yeah.
So I think it's more a case of noticing it and thinking, oh, I'm really upset today. Why particularly today? And there's lots of other models. So is this thing particular? Is it the uncertainty that I'm worried about? And learning to accept uncertainty is one of the hardest things about the work that I normally do in culture shock. Accepting difference, just saying this is, instead of it should be like this, I don't like it. Those kind of comments can exacerbate our emotion, and it's important to sort of recognise it and think, oh, I'm really upset today. I wonder why particularly today. And maybe you can relate that to other times. I've been upset before, so we can say, well, I don't know how to deal with this because this has never happened to me before. But there are other things in your life that you've learned how to deal with that you didn't deal with before. We're all very resilient. There are three kinds of resilience, really. One is bounce back, so things that have got us down that we've recovered from before, and remembering those strategies that we use. So think, what situation is this? Is it a bounce back? Is it stand strong, just kind of power on through this? I know that it's not going to last that long, this particular thing, and just hang on. Or is it grow differently? If you think about those metaphors as being a tree, So you've got some trees that bend down in the wind of the hurricane, and you've got palm trees at the coast, and then they bounce back afterwards. We've got oak trees that kind of stand up against the storm. The only problem with that, if it goes on too long, then if you stand strong in anticipation that things will change, and they don't change, you can break. But even in that case, you can start to grow differently. You adapt the way you do things to the new environment.
Yeah.
So accepting what things you can't change is a real important part of being resilient. So to be able to say, all right, in this current situation, this thing I can't change, but this thing in my life I can control. And that's where things like volunteering, kindness for other people, and also thinking about the bigger picture. So when you've got people at home who are homeschooling, for example, and they're thinking, oh, I can't necessarily fit this in with my work, and it's difficult to get through. Also think about the way that you're responding and the influence that has on other people around you, particularly your children. So you're teaching them in your response how to cope with adversity. And even if you find it difficult for yourself, it can be really helpful to do that for somebody else, to think, all right, I'm showing my children, or I'm showing the people around me in my work team, or however you're connecting with people at the moment, that dealing with adversity isn't something where I'm just curling up into a ball or being very negative or blaming others or blaming myself, but actually looking for things that I can control and that I can influence out of them, and being loving and compassionate to myself, to other people, and then moving forward. So that the last letters in calm, so curious, accepting, loving and compassionate, and then moving forward. What can I actually do in this situation? Thinking about where you put your energy, because if we only have a limited amount of energy, and if you're putting all your energy into worrying about things you can't control, then you're going to have limited energy to put into the things that you can do.
100%.
So some people have worry jars. The things that they can't control, they'll write down and they'll put in the worry jar. Jars are also a good way. You can have a wish list if you've got children who really want to do something that they can't do physically anymore, like going to visit grandparents or playing in the park or with their friends. You can get that wish written down, put it in the wish jar, for things that we will be able to do together
in the future.
Once this situation.
And I think interestingly that there's a couple of things that really resonate with me. Number one, I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and one of the tenets of Stoic philosophy is don't worry about the stuff you can't change. Because easier said than done, I know, but actually over the last 4 or 5 years where I've been reading a lot of this, actually your brain starts to adapt to go to the first influence. And I love that future thinking stuff, like even though you can't do it now, where are you storing the things that you're gonna do when all this is over? It's one of those, like, what's helping me at the minute is knowing that this too shall pass. It might not short term, but over the longer term it will. And what are we going to get excited about when we do it? But it's interesting you talk about that. Be strong, accept change, and then sometimes just accept that this is sometimes a bit rubbish. I think certainly for me, my combination is going to be all three, and I think most people are like that, right? In some ways they'll adapt, in some ways they'll stay strong, and sometimes it will get too much.
Right, and it's saying, well, which strategy will work now? Yeah. And then the other thing I think that's really helpful, if you look at positive psychology research, Martin Seligman identified 5 areas, and then Peggy Quern and Michelle McQuaid added a 6th, that people can actively work on improving. So the first is positive emotions, and that exercise you did in gratitude. Sometimes with gratitude, if you're thinking of things that you're grateful for, people who are depressed can find that makes things worse. So I tend to use instead the 3 good things exercise. So what are 3 good things that have happened to you in the last 24 hours? And that can be anything from enjoying the taste of a cup of coffee, being able to sit outside for 10 minutes in the garden, speaking online to somebody that you care about, finding out that the National Theatre are showing plays that you can tune into. So that at the end of the day, you're scanning your day for things that were good in it, instead of all the things that worry you, which is tends to be default human position a bit.
It's where your focus
so
is.
Looking for things in your life that will generate positive emotions.
Yeah,
And then the second one is engagement. So things like music, art, sport, exercise in the garden, cooking, that absorb you and that challenge you at the same time.
Okay,
the third one is relatedness. So how are you connecting with other people? Humans are really social human beings, and we like that connection. Some people like sort of physical big parties, and it's amazing to see the innovation for people that like those big groups. What they're doing now, they're having virtual pub quizzes, they're having sing-alongs, karaoke, they're having virtual parties. All of that's fantastic for well-being.
Yeah, amazing. That's really good. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. That was really good. And I know the last time we got together for the audio version of the Kindness Project, and we'll make sure we put those episodes on the show notes. You are the only you are the only person with an interview where we've had to spread it over 3 whole episodes, because we just spent like 2 hours having a really good chat about psychology, well-being, looking after yourself. Some of it academic, but also a lot of it super practical. So I just want to say thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. I'm sure there's going to be people out there who want to take a look at what you do. So where can people find out a bit more about you?
Okay, so my website is curious-human.co.uk, but also connect with me on LinkedIn, Ruth Hughes on LinkedIn, because I'll post a lot of the things that I do there. I've recently done some talks for the Boarding Schools Association and English UK and the English Language Coaching Association, and all of those links are available on LinkedIn. But yeah, by all means, get in touch with me. My email's office@curious-human.co.uk. Happy to answer any questions for anything that's come up today. And thank you very much, Chris and Charlotte, for having me on.
Amazing. No, we've absolutely loved it. And what we'll do is, once we've given it to somebody a lot more technical than us, you'll get a copy of this video nicely edited, so you can use it as and when you need to. So thank you for that, Ruth. Stick around. I know we've gone from quite a intellectual and serious subject, but I'm now going to talk a little bit about TV game quiz shows, because I want to share.
It is the end.
It is the end
of the podcast.
It is the end of the podcast, so we're going to share some of the amazing answers we've had on Facebook and Twitter about people's favourite game shows. So let me just find that post. And what I'm going to do, just so we've got a bit of music in the morning, is I'm going to try and find the theme tunes for those game shows while we're at it. So I'm going to drag that one. You know what? I don't know what I did without just 2 screens at the same time. Ruth, have you got multiple screens? Are you a
No,
two?
I don't. I'm afraid. I'm just on my laptop at the moment. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I'm sort of I can sort of do a bit of dragging and dropping, which is quite useful. Right. So Charlotte's going to read them out, and while she's reading them out, I'm going to try and find the YouTube. So let's have a look. We every time we ask a question, we get surprised at the ones that get the most answers. And for this, we had 42 views, and if you've got one
on Facebook alone
and another sort of few on Twitter, so let us know if we've missed any that you really love. First, we've got Sarah Robinson, who said "Strike It Lucky," and here we go. You ready? Oh, we've got an ad from YouTube.
With YouTube Kids, you manage your family's
Let's see if we go
experience.
from there. Do we like the theme tune on this one? No audio. So that's not going to work. But Paige,
Audio for everything else.
yeah, Paige Floyd said only connect. Mark Newman said the chase. Although when I was very young, Going for Gold was my favourite. Apparently, have you ever? Do you know what Going for Gold is? Ruth, do you remember Going for Gold?
Yeah, I didn't watch it though. I remember it being there.
Yeah, it was this really interesting show that had people from all over Europe just getting involved in a quiz. So yeah, it was good. Serena Darby, Blockbusters,
yes.
Classic. Desmond Carter said Going for Gold, Family Fortunes, Play Your Cards Right, and Catchphrase. Nick Ramsden loves a bit of Bullseye. Clearly, come and have a look and see what you could have won. Trev said The Chase and It's a Knockout. Mike Christie said The Chase is the best current quiz, but he loves a bit of blankety blank. Blankety blank, blankety blank.
I remember the thing. I watched it twice.
Steve Dan said Run Around with Mike Reid. Roberta White said loves 15 to 1, and now she loves The Chase and Eggheads. Francis Barrett said every Saturday I used to watch Big Break with my granddad.
Big Break.
Big Break was amazing. It was like a snooker based quiz show. Like Bullseye was darts, Big Break was snooker. Anita Hudson said Play Your Cards Right. Now weirdly the other year we bought a big set of giant cards, didn't we? Do you remember?
Yeah.
So on Christmas Day we had our own game of Play Your Cards Right. Al McCann said ever. It's only one choice. Got to be Miles to Mind. John Cook said Going for Gold. Alice Joy said Bullseye. John's just posted a meme of Jim Bowen waving and then falling over, which I'll have to watch later. Heidi Ball said she likes Pointless, and they used to do one on Channel 5 called 100%. There was one, right, I remember, called, what was it called? It was hosted on Channel 5, hosted by Tim Vine, and I'm sure it was called Whittle or something like that.
There's one right now where you've got to not be the first, but you can't be the last either. And it's a bit like,
what's that called? That's on Saturday nights, isn't it?
No idea.
Oh, I can't remember. And Annie Flowers said Generation Game. Have you ever seen Generation Game? YouTube that. That's definitely worth a watch. Mark O'Halloran said currently it's got to be Tipping Point. Now the challenge I've got with Tipping Point is the questions are just way too easy. Like, what's the capital of France was one that you come up the other day. If it's a quiz, it's got to be just a tiny bit challenging. And Cassie Dames, friend of the show, mum of you, wife of me, said, not sure if it counts as a quiz show, but definitely catchphrase. Now we've got a special guest who wants to pop her head in because she's sort of loitering in the background. So just here to pull her tongue out. Say bye to everybody, Sophie.
Goodbye. What about Twitter?
Twitter. Yeah, I'll have a look on Twitter. Ruth, what are you spending your time doing more of now? You potentially got a little bit more time on your hands in lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still delivering a lot of the things that I used to deliver live. I'm now delivering in terms of webinars.
Okay.
So I do make a point of going out with the dog and my husband every day, and walking around. Luckily, we live right in the countryside, so we can do that without coming across other people. So I really appreciate how lucky we are to be able to do that. So we do walk every day. But I'm spending more time cooking. I cook with my son most evenings. We cook together, then we eat together. And just being able to slow down and appreciate those things is really important. Yeah. But, like everybody, having this change in the way that we're working is quite anxiety provoking. Sometimes I think, as a positive psychologist, I should be able to handle those emotions better, but we all go through them, and we have to just accept that they come. And so I'm looking at my business and thinking about how I can do things differently online. I'm spending some time. I'm working on a new website at the moment, so I've got a lot to do in terms of work. It doesn't feel actually like I've got any more time. It feels weirdly like the days are going faster at the moment.
Same here. The only thing we need to cope with is making sure that we sort of just, because Sophie's 8, we've got homeschooling, and I didn't realise that I've got the second loudest dog in the world. And I say second because we interviewed. I've started a Facebook Live for my business as well, and we interviewed an accountant on there yesterday, and he's got the loudest dog in the world. So we've, I don't know how that's worked, but we seem to have just really loud animals, and you don't realise when you're not working around them, but when you're working with them, it's slightly different. Now, thank you we've got one more answer from, actually we've got a few. Tom Ellis said it's a knockout. Dan Gaylor said the Krypton Factor. Charlotte, you've got to YouTube the Krypton Factor. That was amazing. Eve Keefe said probably the Krypton Factor, but she was on the Weakest Link once, and she sent me a little photo of Eve on the Weakest Link. So that's really good.
You what? The Weakest Link.
Goodbye. But I want to end on potentially the one that I forgot about when it comes to game and quiz shows. And apart from Nightmare,
That's not really a quiz show.
It's probably my favourite 80s memory. I'm going. I don't know if you know this show, Ruth. I'm going with Pat Sharp. I'm going with Mullets. I'm going with Whole Lot of Fun. Prizes can be won. It's Funhouse. I can't believe we missed Funhouse.
Funhouse is brilliant. I watched like 7 episodes in a row once.
That is absolutely brilliant. And on that note, apologies, Ruth, for that just frivolity and just talking about mullets when you're talking about helping people.
But a good mullet.
Right, this is one of the things that worries me about being in lockdown. The limited amount of hair I've got left is going to be a real stain. Yeah. Are you going to be home barbering, Ruth? Is that how we're going to go?
I'm having to already, as you can probably tell. Home barbering, just cut the fringe when I need to.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'll be going for a mullet though. Are you going for a mullet?
No, but you can have my hair if you want.
I might. Well, can I have your hair and just like sort of
I'll
engineer a mullet?
Yeah.
Sounds good. And on that note, before we talk any more nonsense, thank you to Ruth for joining us today. Thank you
very much for having me.
Thank you to our viewers. Yes. We really appreciate you spending the time with us. And we'll see you